with another episode of the Top 3 show where I talk to my favorite artists about their favorite artists. And man, I'm just beyond blessed today to have one of the coolest dudes, Austin Yagle from, again, we're seeing a pattern here, a band called Love, among other things. He's a worship leader, a music director at the Vine Church, and an awesome one at that. Just one of the best drummers out there. I know a lot of people would agree. And what a guy, just family man, father, husband, you name it, just all around good guy. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, John. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a blast. So you feel like you're ready to make yourself known to the universe with these 4 questions?
Yeah, I'm excited. This should be fun. A little bit of a deep dive into some of my tastes.
Yeah, I'm excited about this, man, because like I feel like with the other guys as well, like we haven't got to know each other that deeply yet. You know, we've met a couple times, and so I'm really curious to see your musical taste because I have a feeling it's going to be very wide. So
Yeah,
let's
I
get
think
into it.
I might surprise you with a couple of these
Okay, cool. I can't wait. So let's get into it. So the first question, top 3 favorite albums of all time, starting
album.
with your number 3.
My number three. So whenever I think about albums, largely, there's a couple angles that like I'm approaching from, and I think a lot of us approach from similar angles. But a big piece of that is kind of albums that had like important point or that were at important points in my life, whether it was a musical turning points or just an important time in life, a tough time in life or a more exciting time
Sure.
in life.
Yeah.
So this one specifically, number three would have to be the album "The Everglow" by May. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and uh, the reason being one of the main reasons being is that was the first album that made me realize that albums were more than just collections of songs. As silly
Yeah.
as that sounds, up until that point, I just viewed albums as like um, collections of songs rather than like total art pieces.
Right.
Um, and I don't know if you've ever heard that album, but from
No, I
front to
haven't.
beginning, it's an incredible album. It's very much an experience. They have a prologue and an epilogue on the front that has kind of like almost elevator like piano music going in the background.
Hmm.
As that's going, it has a little introduction, a little outro that's just almost like a computerized voice or similar to computerized voice, but from start to finish, there's no stopping of the music. Each song bleeds into the next in very smart ways. Comes in with a massive piano ballad first, just piano and vocals, and it's just
Yeah.
gorgeous. And then song two comes in with a massive drum fill. And I remember being in the back seat of my friend Samuel Myers
Hmm.
his car on the way back from a youth group in like 2008 or 2009. So Samuel, if you're listening to this, shout out to you, buddy. Um, and he was just like, "Awesome, you're gonna love this." And I just remember listening to that on the way home, and we ended up getting back to my house, and we just had to. He had to get going, but he was like, "Here, take this album." Like he pulled it out of his stereo and handed it to
Yeah.
me. It's like, "Go finish this tonight." And I just went home and I just finished the entire thing.
That's awesome, man. That's like the kind of life-changing experience. Like if you've seen the movie, I don't know if you've seen Almost Famous, but when the sister is like, go under my bed and look at my records, it'll change your listen to Tommy, it'll change your life. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it sounds like that kind of thing happened to you there.
yeah, it was very
Yeah.
like it. I just before that day, it just had never occurred to me.
Yeah.
How yeah, as silly as that sounds, it just it
That's
was
awesome, man. I gotta
constantly.
check that out. That sounds right up my alley. So
Oh yeah, you enjoy it. Ian's a fan. I know. I think he would
yeah.
enjoy it as well.
Awesome, man. I'll definitely check that out. So yeah, that's almost like half of the point of doing this show too, is like I'm always, looking for the next
Yeah,
thing that I haven't heard before. So
yeah.
yeah.
I love every song on the album, and probably still could recite every word on the album. I don't listen to it as much these days, but there was a while it was just on
Yeah.
repeat all the time. But there's a song called "The Fisherman's Song," and I quoted it for my senior quote in high school. So
Oh,
uh,
cool.
very
Yeah.
important, yeah, very important album to me.
Nice, man. Okay. Well, what's your number two?
Number two would have to be um, the album. It's just called Three, and it's by the Lumineers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that one came much later in life, but
Mm-hmm.
similar reasoning. It's just a front to back incredible album. Um, tells a story. The
Mm-hmm.
whole album tells just a tragic, but at times beautiful, and there's a lot of beauty within the way people can share their hardships and sorrow.
Yeah.
But it's just a gorgeous album. And then they did a kind of a music video movie
Mm-hmm.
type deal to go along with it, where there was a music video for every single track on the album, and it basically was just like one long movie.
Was
Uh,
it their third album or?
yep, it was the third
Okay.
album.
Because,
Yep,
yeah, I kind of lost track with them for some reason, and I really like the Lumineers a lot.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I had there's some songs I really do like on their first and second albums, but
Yeah.
I would say Three is the first album that like front to back is just incredibly gorgeous song,
Yeah.
incredibly gorgeous music.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, just big fan of that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know how I missed that one because, like, I think maybe their second album kind of dipped for me a little bit. So I was like,
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
fell off the train a little bit. But I
It's
need,
funny because I actually hadn't been a really like a fan of them. I wasn't really like necessarily following that closely. I knew a couple of their radio hits. So I was like, oh, they're pretty good.
right,
Um,
right.
but my wife was a huge fan of them. And then while she was a fan of them, the album Three came out, and it was funny because I actually listened to it before she did. I was like, hey, they had a new album come out. Like, I'm gonna check it out. And
Yeah,
I was like, it's very different than their first couple albums. A lot more like ballads on it as opposed to kind of like
yeah,
that kind of stomp sound. And
right, right.
but they got some more upbeat ones on there as well. But just
Yeah.
the album.
That's interesting, especially as like a drummer like yourself. Would you say you gravitate to a lot more ballads overall, or in general, or are you just kind of like anything goes?
Really anything. I mean, a lot of my like favorite music lands a lot on lyricism and things like
Hmm.
that. And I like seeing what people can do when people can do a lot with a little.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
always do actually find myself listening to, but I mean, at the same time, I'm also, I might listen to a ballad and then the next song is, a track from Blink 182, or even like a Slipknot, song, so
yeah,
my
yeah.
tastes are very much all over the place.
Yeah, yeah. But that's awesome, man. Yeah, and I'm kind of the same thought in most cases where I think less is more. And I think, a good telltale proof of like a great song is like, does it survive well in like an acoustic or unplugged setting?
Yeah,
Then it's still, a great song, or sometimes it's even better in those settings in some cases.
completely agree.
So, yeah, absolutely, man. That's really cool. All right. So, what's your number one?
Number one, and this is again is going to be completely different direction, but I'll elaborate a little bit more on why
Yeah.
it's number one. And even when I'm ranking the top three, it's really even hard to put them in an order. But
Yeah.
as I'm reflecting once we got on the call, it's actually an album called Good AM by Mac Miller.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
hip hop rap album.
Yeah.
Um, but it is the album that got me into hip hop and rap. And it was funny because it was actually my brother's album. And he was like, you should listen to this. So he hands it to me. And it
Yeah.
gets stuck in my radio in my car. So then
Like
I'm forced to
literally,
listen
it
to
was
it.
stuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it literally gets stuck in the radio in my car. So I start listening to
Yeah.
it like every day. And I mean, it grew on me immediately. But just
Yeah.
when I was I revisit that album every few months or so, and every time I just listen to it front to back, and it's just an incredible album. It's got Thundercat, one of the most famous bassists in the world, is on a few tracks on there.
Yeah.
Tyler the Creator produced like the first song on the album. So
Hmm.
it's just got some incredible talents that worked on it. So sonically, it's just cool because it's approached very like instrumentally as opposed to being like electronically. So there's like lots of live and raw instruments on it.
Right.
Just an incredibly well produced album. A lot of the songs don't sound like other songs, which I always love hearing something that's like, there's not other stuff that sounds like this, whether
Yeah.
it's cadences, or if it's, the melody, regardless of what it is. I just always love finding stuff that's unique, and that entire album is just unique front to back.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, I would not have seen that coming, but yeah, how long was it stuck in your your CD player for?
A couple of years, like 2 years probably, and then I got a new vehicle, and then
Yeah.
somehow we got it out. But my brother ended up back with it. He was like, as soon as I got out, he was like, "Can I have that back?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And he was so happy to have it back.
Oh, that's funny,
But it
dude.
was a cool album. Me and
Yeah,
my brother bonded over that album in a big way. But also it
that's
opened
cool.
me up to a whole world of hip hop artists that at the time I just hadn't been really even interested in that world and hadn't explored it. But after hearing that, it
Yeah.
opened up a whole new taste of music for me. So
Oh
um,
yeah.
that's why it's in the top three for sure.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I think did you hear the new Tyler the Creator album? I think it just came out today.
I've been listening to it. I haven't heard the whole thing, but everything I've heard from it has been just incredible. I love what he
Yeah.
does. I always think it's funny. I think people like to really break down and pick apart everything he's saying. And sometimes
Hmm.
I think he's just making stuff that he enjoys, but
Sure.
what he enjoys is just so good,
Yeah, oh yeah.
And of
Some of
course
the
there
music choices are really amazing
he's
too.
also
Yeah.
brilliant with all his, his creative mind and creative direction for everything is,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, he is the creator for a reason, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great choice, man. Well, really
Thank you.
cool. So, did you want to move on, or did you have like an honorable mention you wanted to throw out there
I do have
album-wise?
one honorable mention, and I won't
Okay.
hang on it too long.
Yeah.
And it would have been in the top three, and it wouldn't be an honorable mention, but I chose to make it just a mention because it's specifically a live album. So it's a collection of
Okay.
songs from different projects, but I'll explain why. But if you've ever heard of the band Wolfpack,
No.
okay, so they did a concert at Madison Square Garden,
Okay.
and they recorded that concert. But to just kind of give you a brief synopsis of them, is they kind of they all had their hands in the industries and all had their own musical projects, but it was a collection of a bunch of different musicians and artists that I believe they're out in LA. I believe they are out in LA. I couldn't tell you exactly. Um, but they kind of were doing like YouTube videos and stuff, and their songs, original music, but they were doing them in like basements and stuff, and incredibly, it's like funk. It's kind of like funk music. It's very groovy. Uh,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah, and they after their YouTube grew really big, they did a few concerts, and I want to say they only did like 3 or 4 concerts, and their like fourth or fifth concert was selling out Madison Square Garden. So
Wow.
like they're highly recommend it. It's an incredible performance. Excuse me, sorry, long day.
Yeah.
Incredible performance front to back. But it's just so much fun, and there's a moment in it. It's got specifically my favorite musical moment of all time, and I can confidently say that, even though I'm often very indecisive about my favorites. But they have a song called "Wait for the Moment,"
Okay.
and very kind of like down tempo, cross stick, kind of like quiet, groovy vibe.
Hmm.
And when it drops down to the bridge, it drops down to somebody playing like I believe it's like a Rhodes or some type of like organ.
Yeah. Yeah. Electric
It just
piano.
drops down to them playing that, and the guy who's the featured vocalist on the song kind of comes in singing a melody and not singing words, but just like a doom 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 doom. He's singing that, and then another
Hmm.
vocalist comes in with a different melody. So then you got three different melodies going.
Yeah.
And somebody comes in with the clarinet with a different melody, and they get stacked to about 6 or 7 melodies before it all builds back up, and then they land back in, and it is just one of the most incredible, and it was done live, and it's just mind blowing
So
moments.
what's the name of the album again?
It's just called Live at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna check that out. That
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
I'll send my list to you as well after we go off the call.
Okay, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll make it easier.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, man. This is great.
absolutely.
I love how varied your taste is already, man. And
Yeah,
this is
I'm
much
all over
more.
it.
Yeah, this
It only continues to go.
I knew this was gonna be great, man. From the man with the greatest hair in the game. We are now moving on to question two. All right, so now your top three favorite artists of all time, starting with number three.
Top three favorite artists of all time. So, um, Mac Miller would have to be. I would probably put him at probably three. Um,
Okay.
he just again kind of echoing the points I made about the album of just kind of the artist that got me uh,
Hmm.
into hip hop. But a big thing is just I mean I all of his albums, especially his later stuff. I mean, his early stuff is very good, but his later stuff is just very mature, and it's from an artist perspective. And
Yeah.
each album that he released, because he released uh, three in a row before he ultimately passed, and then even after that, they had enough um, to work with to get like a fourth, like another album out. I mean, he had I couldn't tell you how
Right.
many I had right offhand, but there was
Was Circles the one that came out after he passed
yes,
away?
the
Yeah. Yeah.
posthumous is I guess what they call
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Um, but I'm drawing a huge blank on what album released in 2014. But then in 2015, Good AM
Hmm.
released, and then
Yeah.
in 2016 he released The Divine Feminine, and me and my brother actually saw him on the Good AM and the Divine Feminine tour,
Oh, nice.
and just incredibly talented artist live, incredible band live,
Yeah.
um, and just yeah, love his discography, and just like I said, and whenever you can pair that with somebody just being able to back it up live is always just
Yeah.
awesome.
Absolutely, man. Very cool.
Tiny
Okay.
Desk concert was, I think, one of the most popular uh, they ever had, and it's incredible. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. It's
Okay.
got
Yeah.
Thundercats playing bass for it, and I think Corey Henry is playing keys for it, so it's just an absolutely stacked band
Yeah.
for it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they sound incredible.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what's your number two?
Number two, um, number two and one, kind of back and forth, and it's really hard to land on those.
Yeah.
Um, but it'd be either John Mayer or
Okay.
May. Um, I mentioned
Hmm.
John Mayer. I mentioned May just because of kind of like the history of
Yeah.
just loving their music and as they release. Um, I'd probably actually put them in more of the honorary mention category. And
Okay.
number two would be I would land on John Mayer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, dude, incredible musician.
Yeah, and a little bit more familiar discography. I
Right.
do. I mean, I love everything he's released, and I think the Continuum album is probably his most successful album that he ever released. And I mean, some of
Right.
those songs are just hits that are still played on the radio every single day.
Hmm.
But a lot of his later works are kind of where I land on my
Yeah.
where my favorites land, and some of the I don't want to say deep cuts, but
Hmm.
songs that you don't hear as often, but when you dive into them, they're incredibly well written songs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and the stuff that he does with the trio is great.
yeah. Pino
Uh
Palladino and Steve Jordan. That's what I was going to
yeah.
mention him as well. Just he introduced me to some incredible musicians growing up that kind of influenced my playing. And Aaron Sterling,
Hmm.
playing on most of his albums is just my
Yeah.
absolute favorite drummer in the world. So it goes deeper than just John Mayer. It has a lot to do with those that he surrounded himself with
Oh, absolutely.
as
Yeah.
well. His bands, especially like you said, John Mayer Trio, especially when they did that "Where the Light Is" tour, and like
Oh yeah.
the front
Yeah.
half of that album is just the John Mayer Trio. And
Hmm.
that I remember being in high school and just listening to that on repeat in the mornings on the way to school. And then
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not many people can pull off like Hendrix covers that well too. Like
Oh
his
yeah.
his Bold as Love cover
Bold
is
as
great.
Love.
Oh,
His
I love
version of
it.
Bold as Love is incredible.
Oh
That
yeah.
was that was the first version I actually heard of that song, and which so of course I went and listened to the Hendrix version as well. But
Yeah.
after that, I was a little biased towards John Mayer's cover of it, and just
Yeah.
incredible musician. But I love his songwriting as well.
Oh, absolutely, man. Gravity is still, yeah, I'd probably if I had to name my favorite, but yeah, he's got so many great ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So what's your number one?
Number one is kind of my current, and it's so funny like going back and forth. I'm like, how, I was battling like, is this just currently my favorite, or is this an artist that is going to be? And after I reflected on like, no, it's been a few years that this has been my favorite artist, and it would have to be Zach Bryan.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
more
Yeah.
modern country artist,
Yeah, yeah.
but just the first album I heard by him was his American Heartbreak album. Uh,
Hmm.
I can't. It's either 36 or 38 songs. There's a couple different. There's a deluxe version, so I can't remember the exact number, but it's a double
Yeah.
album. And just I remember the first time I listen. I heard one or two of the songs off of it, and I was like, hold on, let me cut back to the beginning. And I just
Hmm.
listened front to back, and that was all I listened to for a couple weeks, just because kind
Yeah.
of similar thing with Mac Miller and hip
Hmm.
hop was I've always enjoyed certain aspects of country, but I'd never really been like much of a country fan. Um,
Right. Right.
excuse me, just ate dinner. Sorry.
No, you're good, man.
Um, but um, Zach Bryan, it was like right around the time that he released his song "Something in the Orange," and
Hmm.
that was kind of like the radio hit, and I had heard, and actually my wife introduced me to that song, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And then just I don't know if I was listening to Spotify radio or if I saw something online or if I just like was like, let me go check out this album just because I'm bored or what. I can't remember what exactly made me go check it out.
Yeah.
Uh, but I was just enamored by the songwriting, and it was one that the more I listened to, the more I realized that there were songs and lyrics about things that it would sound like it was about one thing, but then you realize that is like a symbolism or metaphor about something so much deeper.
Yeah.
And the more you listen is the more you catch those things. And he's a very relatable artist.
Okay, yeah. I'm
When,
sure
when,
I've heard a couple of his songs, but I can't think off the top of my head. I mean, I wouldn't call myself like a big country fan by any means. There
yeah,
are certain artists I gravitate to, and it sounds
yeah,
like he's probably along the more Americana,
yeah,
earthy, kind of like Chris Stapleton along those
yeah.
lines,
Kind of
or
like
yeah,
songwriter, country, uh,
yeah. Gregory Alan
Americana.
Isaacoff,
Yes. I
perhaps.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, these are all people that he's a fan of, but especially people like Gregory Allen and Isakov.
I was
Um,
excited to see that
right.
you knew that guy
Oh yeah.
and Ray LaMontagne as well.
He's so funny. It's so funny because I was telling Hannah we almost got to see Gregory Alan Isakov because he was supposed to open for the Lumineers when we saw them one time.
Ah, that makes sense.
And then
Yeah.
they ended up having to drop off the tour, or he couldn't make that date. I can't really remember why.
Okay.
We didn't get to see him, but I always tell Hannah he's like everybody's favorite songwriter. He's their favorite songwriter. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
big.
he had a funny line like towards the end of the show when I saw him a few weeks ago. Something along the lines of he's like, "This is the big radio hit," and he's like, "I'm just kidding. We're not on the radio." So,
It's so funny because a lot of my favorite artists, you'd be scrolling Instagram one day and they'll post an album of his and just give a
yeah,
shout out being like, this was my favorite album and blah blah blah. And
yeah,
um,
yeah.
so I was he's highly respected in the industry, and of course
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. And of course Ray too, which it was
Yes.
this is actually I think our it was our fifth time seeing him and not to get us off topic, but I actually won
No.
tickets to
Yeah, you
that
mentioned
show,
that.
which is crazy. But yeah, it was really cool at the end because when Ray was talking to the audience about how he's been doing this for like almost or more than 20 years now, and
Yeah.
he was just like, "Thank you for letting me be a part of your lives," which I thought was really like nice, but also profound because it's like, yeah, the artists do become part of our lives in that
Yeah,
way, you know.
that is
So
really cool, and that's one of the things that I love about doing music, being a musician, is that. But
yeah,
yeah, the we I play sometimes with wedding bands. Not too often these days, but we play a
yeah.
bit of raised music at the weddings and stuff. It's very popular.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of those ballads are just yeah, beautiful. But yeah, wedding band stuff is also very fun and you like
Yeah,
literally get to become part of those people's lives
yeah,
too. So
yeah. It's a
yeah.
fun little moment, you know. I
Yeah.
always get caught up in the. I'm already a sap, so
Yeah,
when they
yeah.
start doing the father daughter, the first dance or the closing dance, I'm back there and I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
keep it together, keep it together, keep it together. And then as soon as they're done, I'm texting my wife like, I
Yeah.
love you.
Yeah.
But no,
That's awesome.
those are always fun. Sometimes you deal with like logistical stuff, but ultimately it's always nice being a part of people's big day, and everybody's in the best mood
Yeah.
um, 99% of the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's always
exactly.
in the best mood on those days, so it's always like a really good time.
Yeah, totally, man. Well, these are awesome picks, man. Like just as I thought, expected, like unexpected picks all over the map genre wise. This is
Yeah, I was
great.
like, it's so funny. I was like, this is gonna sound crazy, but yeah, these are there. But this is a glimpse at what my daily listening is like.
That's fantastic, man. Well, now we're moving on to probably one of the hardest questions of the four here. Your top three favorite songs of all time, starting with
Yeah,
number three.
absolutely. So these were very hard, and you jump around and you land on different things. But actually, there was one that like really stuck out to me immediately. It's not number one, but I would definitely put it at number three. Is the song "The Weight" by the band.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just I
Phenomenal song.
I think that's a perfect example of what like music is. It's super, it's simple,
Yeah.
um, but it says a lot. And
Yeah.
just the instrumentation um, is beautiful, and just yeah, that song every time I listen to it,
Yeah.
it gets me going. And
Oh man, I love the band, dude. Leon Helms is like one of my I think he's such an underrated drummer too, because he's just
oh
like
yeah,
he's so in the pocket always. And to sing and play drums is
that's what I was
not
about to
easy.
say. A
Yeah.
phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal vocalist while
Yeah.
playing drums. And I mean, I don't do that's something I do aspire to do though, is to be able to sing
Yeah.
without people while being able to play.
Well,
And yeah,
I see you like leading directionally while playing on the mic, so like you're
I
one step
appreciate.
away,
Yeah,
man.
I'm close. I'm close. I just got to get better, a little bit better at singing. But I can remember the first time I heard that song, and then like before the song was even over, I was like, I had erupted in tears, and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
They
and
have
it's
so many good songs too. It's like it's criminal. Like, have you watched The Last Waltz, the
I have
documentary
not.
about them?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
do yourself a favor.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna write that down right now.
The version of that is interesting because it's not in the live concert. It's like a different like pre-filmed thing, which is
Yeah,
very cool. But man, some of the other live versions of it, so it's mostly a live concert directed by Martin Scorsese of all people, and then
yeah,
also like behind the
that's crazy.
scenes documentary. It's like
I'm
seriously
sure
one of
it's
the
amazing,
best.
especially with
Yeah, it's one of the best of all time. Seriously,
it's the last waltz.
The Last Waltz. Yeah,
Okay, I just wrote that down. I'm gonna have to check that out.
you'll love it, dude. And
Yeah,
there's
I'll
so
probably
many other
watch that this
people
week.
like Van Morrison, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, like they all came together for essentially the band's final concert together.
Oh,
So
that's cool. Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
emotional just thinking about that.
yeah. Cool, man. Well, so what's your number two?
Number two would be actually it's a song called Donna by the Lumineers. So
Okay.
that's actually the first track off of um, out the album three.
Yeah,
Um, it's a piano ballad. It's just piano and vocals. But it's just it the whole album. When I say it's a beauty, it is heartbreaking. In many ways. The story that's telling once you kind of realize the story, because the whole story is actually about the lead singer's wife's family's addiction, her mother's addiction.
Oh wow.
So it's kind of and it's something that they had been together a long time, so it's something that um the lead singer, like, he was a part of that, like he saw that firsthand. So
Yeah.
um he kind of, I don't know if she partook in like writing the songs, but
Mm-hmm.
he wrote those songs kind of based around his wife's story. So it's
Okay.
incredibly heartbreaking, but beautifully written songs. And
Yeah. Those are
I
some
like
of the
songs that,
best.
yeah, I like songs that make me feel things. So even if they're
Exactly.
heartbreaking,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, I love it's, but it's a beautiful ballad. Love it.
What's the guy? It's Wes something, right? The
Wesley Schultz. Yeah,
Wesley
Wesley
Schultz. That's
Schultz
him.
is, he's like the lead singer, and
Yeah.
but it's really cool because on the third album, Jeremiah Freites, and I
Hmm.
believe I'm pronouncing his whole name right, but he is their drummer, but he's also like one of their song. He writes the songs with Jeremiah. He's like they're the two principal songwriters. But
Okay.
between and prior to that, he was learning piano. So a
Hmm.
lot there's like piano ballads all throughout that album, and he wrote almost every one of them. The drummer did,
Yeah.
and it's being that it wasn't his first instrument, and being that a lot of them were written on like an old out of tune piano. Um,
Hmm.
very very unique piano parts and melodies that are just um, they can be playful at times, but still like dark.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's just really, really cool.
That's really cool too when somebody like that comes at an instrument almost like, with a totally fresh view because
Yeah,
like especially if you've been playing the same instrument
yeah,
for many years, you kind of not get stuck, but like in the
yeah,
same routines and
for sure.
patterns and
Well,
yeah,
it's and he just approached it. He didn't take lessons or anything.
right.
He's just a musician who spent a lot of time like just sitting down there tinkering around. So just a lot of like interesting chording, and
Yeah.
things like that. And yeah, just the whole album is a much darker tone.
Yeah.
First two.
I love too how the Lumineers just in general look like they came out of another time, like
Yeah, yeah,
Appalachia from like a century ago or
yeah. I
something,
think they're just Colorado boys. Is like,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
if I remember correctly, they're like from the
Right.
middle of nowhere, Colorado. If
Yeah.
I'm remembering correctly,
I think you're right. Yeah.
but
But
Jeremiah Freites wears the same thing. It's just like the black pants, white shirt with the suspenders, and he's never wearing anything but that. And that's always really funny to me.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's awesome. So what's your number one?
Number one, and these were really hard to land on. Oh man, but Shake the Frost. It's a song called Shake the Frost. It's by Tyler Childers. So another
Okay, I've heard
country
of him.
artist. Yeah, he's his name's pretty well known now. And I mean he's been growing for years, but just a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Just another one of those. It's ultimately it's a sad story of a breakup, but the message that I get out of it is to like to love hard,
Mhm.
and make your love known,
Yeah.
whether that's to your partner, or to your family and stuff, but to just love hard while you can, and so it's a
Mhm.
beautiful song.
That sounds beautiful, man. I
Yeah.
definitely have to. There's so much I got to check out just from
I,
what
I
we're talking
gotta
about
I
so
have I
far.
have a couple on I have two honorable mentions that these were both like I mentioned these now because they are both of them are in the running for
Yeah,
anywhere in the top three. Could have been number one, two, or three.
sure.
But Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears,
Of
of course.
course. Yeah.
Just one of the greatest drum parts written of all time, but also just this everything about the song is
Oh,
just
yeah.
perfect. It's one of my like I really don't even want to make it. It's with number one.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's
Yeah.
tied with number one, and it's just incredible, incredible song, and
Yeah.
um,
Can't
yeah,
go wrong with that, man.
self-explanatory.
Can't go wrong. And those guys still got it too, man.
Oh yeah,
I saw them with Ian and Ryan actually was at that show too,
that's
and
right.
Katya, and
That was
yeah,
after
like
their most recent album, right?
sounded perfect. Yeah, the tipping point. This I guess would have been a couple years back, but Yeah, just
Yeah, the tipping point was an
awesome.
incredible album.
Oh
Actually,
yeah.
my favorite drummer, Aaron Sterling, who played on a lot of John Mayer's stuff, played on a few songs on that album.
No way.
Yeah, and he played on
Okay.
long time. And
Okay.
that song, there's a drum fill that happens two or three times in the song. It's my maybe my favorite drum fill of all time. It
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
good. They hold out that long
Yes.
time, and the
Right,
drums
right.
wait a second, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah,
oh,
those gated
so
drums. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
very reminiscent of Phil Collins
Yes.
drum parts. Uh,
Exactly.
just kind of with that Tears for Fears feel, incredible song.
Yeah. Yeah, they still got it, man. Like I love especially Rivers of Mercy off that album. It's
Yes.
so beautiful.
Oh,
Oh, they played that live and I was like just tearing up, man.
that's what I was.
It
I
was
would. I'd
beautiful.
be. I'd have been
Yeah.
crying. Me, Ian, and Ryan bonded over that one pretty big when when
Yeah.
it was released. The tipping point, yeah, released.
That makes sense, man. I can feel a lot of these influences on a band called Love's work.
I
So,
would say that it's their music is a big influence of my playing. Some of
yeah.
these artists I mentioned throughout, they don't have as much influence on my playing as um with hip hop. It's not gonna have much drum influence, and a lot of
Yeah.
these other artists were kind of artists I discovered later in my life. So it didn't have as
Yeah.
much influence on, but like artists like Tears for Fears are artists I listened to my entire life.
Dude, yeah. Tears for Fears, absolutely incredible. So, did you have an honorable mention? Because I know you
Yeah,
had like
this was
already.
my last one for songs because again,
Oh,
this
right.
thing could take no, and this is out, but The Distance by Cake. It's
Oh yeah,
just
dude. I love that song.
absolutely one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah.
I just constantly
It's
I
such a
find
fun
myself,
track. Yeah.
yeah. And I'll play it and I'll won't be able to stop listening to it for a little while just because
Dunna, dunna, dunna,
it's
dunna,
so
dunna, 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 dunna. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
so
just sits
good.
right in the pot. But it's such a fun song, and
Yeah.
but it's cool because it's another one of those songs that the lyrics are so goofy, like almost goofy sound, not goofy, but like it's just so
Yeah.
unserious sounding. But there's a much deeper message to it. It's more about like
Yeah.
going for what your dreams and stuff. So it's
Right, right.
love that track.
Yeah, Cake is a fun band, man. I got to see them once back in like 99, I want to say, for back when 99X was still around doing their big day
That's
out
so
thing.
cool.
And it
But
was
they're
like,
back now.
oh, are they still going? Okay.
99X is back, yeah, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the crew that was did it back when in its heyday. So
Yeah, I heard that. That's
yeah,
pretty
they had a
cool.
big concert. I don't remember. Actually, I think Cake might have played a concert with them, like
That makes
in the
sense.
past like year.
Wow. Man, that's
But
like no time has passed, but it's been a while. I'm showing my
and this
age
is so
now.
funny. But no, I mean, I remember when I was in high school when 99X was on, and it not long
Yeah.
after, maybe when I was in high school, they shut it down. And then
Yeah.
so it was cool I remember, but it feels like it never went off now. It's weird.
Yeah, that was kind of the pinnacle of that of the like the alternative, grunge days. Because I want to say also at that big day out there was like Tonic, Live, Bush,
Oh,
um,
cool.
the Verve Pipe, I think. Like it
Oh,
was just an
sweet.
all day
Yeah,
thing. So
that's awesome.
yeah, it was great, man. But this perfectly segues into our final question.
Yeah.
Uh, your top three favorite concert experiences of all time.
Absolutely.
So
These actually were kind of a little bit easier, I would say, as far as
yeah,
I went ahead and wrote out the list of all the concerts I've been to or tried to. Um,
yeah,
but number three would probably have to be the Lumineers.
yeah.
We saw the Lumineers. We were supposed to actually see them on their tour for that album.
Hmm.
But that was right when COVID hit. But we bought those tickets as like a wedding gift to ourselves.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so any long story short, that tour got canceled because of COVID. Then years later, they announced another tour, and then we got tickets to that because we still had credit or we had like a free ticket to it. I can't remember how it worked out, but
Right,
we
right.
saw them on the next tour. But The reason I would put them in the top three is because their live concert, was one of the most well sculpted performances I've
Hmm.
ever seen in my life. It was 2 hours of, and a lot of their songs aren't that long.
Right, right.
But it was 2 hours of constant moving.
Hmm.
It had a big stage that they had a big backdrop that kind of made you think almost like a late night drop backdrop, but like a
Hmm.
really big one. And then they had
Yeah,
like a circle stage, and then they had kind of like a small general admission, VIP or something. I'm sure it was pretty expensive, but they had
yeah,
like a small section like in the middle there, and they had like the general admission that people came down and circle around that walkway. Uh,
hmm,
but just every bit of their show was so well choreographed in the sense of not dances and things like that, um, but so many of their songs require different instrumentation, and different
hmm, hmm.
setups of instrumentation. So those guys are the two main members of the band, but they have these two other members that tour with them.
Right.
Their names right now, but it's a really quirky dude and this female, and they're both incredible musicians who can play absolutely anything. So any part of the night, every song they were playing a different instrument. And honestly, same thing went for the lead guys, because
Yeah.
Wesley would be playing a banjo for one song, he would switch to acoustic, that was primarily what he was playing. But Jeremiah would be playing drums for a song, then he would go play bass, then he would play banjo. Uh,
Yeah.
and then so just seeing that, and I want to say they had maybe like one extra band member. It was 5 or 6 people they had playing. But just seeing those four just trade instruments every single song, and how,
Yeah.
I mean, they had the drums. They had a drum set like on the back of the stage. Then they had one on the catwalk that like come up and in and out of the ground for different songs.
Wow, that's cool.
So I just remember being like, from just a musicianship standpoint, just blown away. I was just like, wow. And like they were able to fit so many songs into their show that night. It was
Yeah.
mind blowing, but it was just cool because, they'd play one song and they'd be, walking the catwalk, drummer playing on the catwalk, and then they'd finish the song, lights would go dim, and
Hmm.
it wouldn't even be 15, 20 seconds. The whole band's up on a different setup on
Yeah, yeah.
on the stairs on the back of the stage.
That's
Um,
so cool,
they were
man.
somehow able to
What
do
was
some.
the venue?
It was State Farm Arena.
Oh, wow.
And it was just
Okay.
about, and somehow they made it, had moments that were very intimate.
Yeah.
Like because they're, that's what they started out as playing, like tiny shows at their what do they call the local union and things like that. And,
Yeah, yeah.
so they're used to playing those small intimate shows. So but then they had those intimate shows and they had these giant moments that I was like felt like it was like a VMA performance.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just one of the coolest shows I've ever seen.
That's so cool, man. And like, yeah, I got the impression from them that, obviously multi-instrumentalist, but also to that extent, like I think the closest thing that I've seen like that was when I saw Radiohead and
Oh,
just
cool.
like Johnny Greenwood, he switches out so many instruments
Yeah.
over the course of a night. Like just that guy alone is incredible.
Oh,
But yeah, I can imagine those guys just
oh,
constantly switching it up. That's
one of
awesome.
the dudes, like I mean, and you don't see this at shows in that venue, but one of the auxiliary band members that tours with them, I mean,
Hmm.
he down in the crowd and like was walking all like, and he like moved like way up through the crowds. Like, he was just having the time of his life, and that guy made it such a cool show. I don't know if my camera's
That's
blipping.
cool.
Did it just start doing that, or has it been doing that?
No, no, it just started. That was interesting. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about. I don't know, but I got it. Should be. Um,
It's all good.
but yeah, it
But
just, again, it was like a VMA, like
yeah,
music award like level performance, um, and
yeah.
just it was cool to see that.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
A
So
lot of work.
what's your number two?
Number two would be Blink 182.
Oh, okay.
Multiple. I,
Yeah.
I got to see them back in like, I couldn't tell you right offhand the year. It was either maybe 13, 14, or 15. It was whenever it was like the Matt Skiba
Yeah.
era. Whenever um, Tom wasn't with the band and Matt Skiba was with them,
Right.
but not that tour. So I got to see them on that tour with A Day to Remember, and that was a really cool show. But I mean, obviously, I wanted to see Blink 182 as it's supposed to be. I wanted to see
Yeah.
Tom, Mark, and Travis.
Right.
Well, last year, I was able to go see Blink 182 along with my brother, with Ian, Ryan, and with Brooks.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
and me, Ryan and Ian were seated together separately from me and my brother, and separately from Brooks.
Yeah.
But we got to like see each other before and after the concert, and kind of like between acts or the other bands,
Right.
and that was just such a cool experience. I'd been dying to see them live for years,
Yeah.
uh, and then to like have them to come back to be able to see with some of my absolute best friends and my brother, and then on top of that to see those three guys
Yeah.
like run that room, and it's only three of them.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, it was such an incredible performance. They're goofballs, so it has
Right.
funny moments, and not serious moments, but they have some songs that mean a lot to a lot of people. So there were
Oh
moments
yeah.
you can really feel that emotion in the room, especially of a band with so much like decades of history. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it was just a cool show, and then everything you would expect from it, like seeing them, because the first time we saw them, I saw them at Aaron's Amphitheater, and then or
Mm.
whatever it was at the time, and whatever it is now, and then this time was at State Farm, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
see them take over that stadium, and then the arena, and also like just it just shows they're just on they showed their experience.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were incredible.
There's something about seeing a really great trio too, because yeah,
Yeah,
it gives it even more appreciation for what they can pull off, like
yeah,
I'm trying to think of like something more recent I would have seen. Oh, I don't know if you know this band, The Life and Times, but amazing
heard
trio
of
out of
them. Awesome.
Kansas City. I've
Okay.
seen it a couple times and man, like they just sound huge for just three guys. And it's like, how are they
That's
doing
awesome.
this, man?
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
love that kind of stuff. So
The
very
Marvelous
cool.
Three is another great
Oh
trio.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, man. Was
But
Butch Walker was in that band, right?
yeah, Butch Walker. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's his name.
they were at the Big Day Out thing that I mentioned
Were they
earlier.
really? I'm not
They were
surprised,
the
man.
headliners, I think. Yeah.
I got a fan. I got a buddy named Robert. Shout out Robert if you see this.
Yeah.
That he is the biggest Butch Walker fan.
Oh yeah.
He goes and sees the Marvelous Three every time they come in town.
Yeah, yeah. They're great, man. That's awesome. Yeah, small world of music always.
Oh yeah.
So what's your number one?
Number one experience was actually Zach Bryan. So
Okay.
we saw Zach Bryan. I want to say in August.
Yeah.
And uh,
So
man,
he's like your current guy, it
he
sounds
is my
like.
guy right now.
Yeah,
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 for
yeah.
sure, for sure.
That's
He's a
cool.
huge fan. He just keeps releasing music, and just everything he releases, I end up loving. Um, but
Yeah.
seeing him live at that the we saw him at Mercedes Benz.
Oh,
So that was the
nice.
first time I had ever been to a concert at the Benz.
Yeah.
And he was just a force of nature live.
Hmm.
It was just the energy in the room was just some of the most powerful energy I felt at a concert.
Yeah.
Just in such a just such a blast, and his band was top notch. They had a guy that kind of was like a jack of all trades that I was watching. I was like, that's like that guy's like our Blake.
Yeah, yeah,
He plays all
exactly.
like he can play pretty much anything. He plays a lot of things, across our different songs
Yeah,
on set. But um, they had a
right.
guy that he would play lap steel, or he would go over and play piano, or he'd pick up an electric, or he was playing acoustic on another song. Uh,
Nice.
but they're just his band was incredible live, and um, the energy in the room is a big factor in why that's one of the best concerts I've been to. Is just because
Yeah.
uh, it was loud, everybody was yelling their hearts out, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was a great time.
The sound at that venue is so amazing too, because I don't know what I was expecting, I guess, because sometimes when venues are so big, you feel like it's the sound could go haywire, but it's just like the quality is amazing in there.
It sounded great.
Yeah.
It was clear. You could hear
Hmm.
everything great. And I was surprised we got nosebleeds because his tickets really were amongst those tickets that kind of fell into the
Yeah.
heavily scalped. That's
Sure.
bought them. So we ended up just getting some nosebleed tickets, and he had a massive, massive screen behind him, so we could
Yeah.
see everything, and it sounded great. And I was like, it's funny. You think, I've had a couple. When it was the Georgia Dome, I went to
Yeah.
a concert there on the floor, and but I had a better time up in the nosebleeds that concert
Yeah, man.
with the artist too. I was excited about, but
Exactly.
it was a great experience.
That's so cool, dude. Yeah, and it sounds like I mean, with a lot of these being like in the last couple years, you're living your best life out there, man. Like
Yeah, it's
seeing
been
great
good.
shows, making great music as well, and you're doing an amazing job leading at the Vine too, man. Like
I
I
appreciate it.
I gotta say, and I don't know if I think it was on the Blake episode, we gave you a little shout out there. But I just have to say again how awesome it was um, that night that you guys led the what do you call it, the poor night
Yeah.
for all the people on the worship
Oh
team,
yeah,
just in a
that was a
small
great
acoustic
time.
setting. It was beautiful, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I had a great time that night as well, and I
Yeah,
love getting to do stuff like that. And actually, now that you mentioned, I do have an honorable mention for like a much smaller uh,
yeah,
a concert. Um, I've mentioned May a couple times throughout the call at the earlier end of the call. But back when they were on tour for, I think they called it Goodbye Goodnight tour, was supposed to be a farewell tour, and they've done a couple like reunion tours since then.
yeah.
But the opener was a band called Terrible Things, and the opener and the singer for Terrible Things is a guy named Fred Mascherino. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was a guitarist for Taking Back Sunday
Okay.
for a while. And man, I got to see them two or three times on that tour. Like, and every time I remember the first time seeing it, I was like, oh my god. Every time after that, I was more excited to see Terrible Things because it was Fred, and then it was Josh Eppard, which is the drummer for Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember a guy named Andy. I can't remember his last name. Um, but
Yeah.
I can't. I'm drawing a huge blank. But incredible. Anyways, incredible band. Got to see them at the End venue in Nashville, and then at the Vinyl and
Oh,
uh,
nice.
and both of those experiences was like they blew the roof off. And then I think that's the only tour and the only project they ever released. But it was
Yeah. What was the venue in Nashville, did you say?
it's called the End. Very small venue. Very
Yeah.
small. But
Those are some of the best ones,
it's
like a little
it's
hole
a lot of people. I
in. Yeah.
I guarantee you, Ian's probably been there. Um,
Probably, yeah.
it's a pretty famous venue in Nashville for as small as it is. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
yeah, every
Nat
time I bring it up, people's like,
Nashville's
oh,
amazing, like, because you never know who you're gonna run into on any given night. Just like you just walk the streets and you're like, oh, that sounds good coming from that place. Let's walk in
yeah,
there. And it's like the guitarist from Kid Rock's band is
the
playing with
talent,
these
the
small,
talent on Broadway is
yeah,
nuts.
it's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah,
I've been up there a couple times for different reasons, and
yeah,
every time walking down that street, it's just like, man, these bands are incredible, and it's not
yeah,
just run of the mill. There's maybe just a couple like, but
yeah.
there's bands doing like obscure stuff that's like really cool.
Yeah, we ended up seeing some like funk band with that had a saxophone player and like they it was just the weirdest thing because like I remember vividly the sax player was like fully cross-eyed and he looked like something out of like some cartoon movie or something, and like the lead vocalist was like scatting and rapping and stuff and like improving, but it was like the most amazing thing in this little hole
They're
in the wall
incredible, of
bar,
course.
and I
Yeah,
was just like,
yeah.
oh my God, so
Those
cool.
Nashville guys are killer.
Yeah. Indeed, but yeah, speaking of killer bands, man, I gotta say again, I gotta give props to a band called Love. Everything you guys are doing right now, I'm just so excited about, and I know there's a lot of things in the works in the near future. I can't say too much yet, but
Yeah,
I know some things are like pausing until
yeah.
I don't know exactly
We
when,
got some stuff brewing.
but yeah, be
Yeah,
on the lookout, guys, because they'll be taking the world by storm, I think, in
I'm very
2025.
excited. We got a lot of those tracks on there. Some of the first tracks that I've ever played on that will make it to full production and full release. And so I'm very excited about
Yeah.
them. Got to have a lot of fun crafting different things. But yeah,
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, you're the heart of the band, as they say. So keep up the good work, man.
I
And
appreciate it, John. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you for doing this, man. It's I think you have been made known to now to the entire world. So
I
uh
appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
which this should be a good thing for everyone out there because this guy is just a gift to everyone that he comes in contact with. So thank you, man. Love you, dude.
Thank you, John. Love you too, man. I really appreciate you having me tonight.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Peace.